Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 69 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on today. So, yay, I made it to day 69. I'm hoping this is a good thing, right? 69. Today was not what I wanted. Most days aren't what I want, I think. But I think after yesterday and talking about things that I'm avoiding today, it just kind of kept playing in my mind all the things that I was avoiding and all of the implications and other things for this time of year in my life and why I may be having emotional struggles to do things right now. So I I'm pretty sure it's one of those God things that I'm supposed to be grateful for, that all of these things are coming up and that I'm becoming aware of them, because otherwise subconsciously they're things that just keep holding me back, because as long as I avoid dealing with some things from my past, it interferes with my present and possibly my future. And so in order for me to move forward with today and to move forward with my future, I have to deal with some things from the past, and they're not things that some of them are things I just have chosen not to deal with, that I've chosen to avoid for a very long time, and some of them I've dealt with to some extent, just not fully dealt with. So today I feel like they were kind of haunting me because if I want to move forward in my recovery, if I want to get better emotionally and spiritually, I have to face my old demons. And today was a day of another day of somewhat of avoidance and somewhat of facing things. Kind of maybe a combination of things. I didn't sleep much today, yesterday, last night, whatever. So I didn't want to do anything. I ended up kind of falling asleep watching a show on Netflix, and then kept waking up in the middle of it, the end of it, and restarted it like 3 times before I could actually stay awake to watch it. I don't know why I didn't just turn it off and go take a nap. That would have been better, but that's me. I'm stubborn, crazy, trying to force myself to stay awake. Um, I don't have explanations for myself, but anyway, I think it's in part because I tried to go back to sleep this morning and it didn't work, and I was very frustrated. So I'm like, well, if I can't sleep, I'm gonna just get up and watch a show. And then I got something to eat and watching a show, and I'm falling asleep, and I'm like, this is just so messed up. I just can't figure out what my body wants. So should probably be in bed asleep right now, but I did manage to do some dishes today, just a little bit. What was in one sink when I washed them out, so I could brown some hamburger and make some dinner tonight. So yay, still doing a little bit of dishes, not a lot, just a little bit. And like I said, some stuff from my past was just kind of gnawing at me. Kind of when I couldn't sleep this morning, it was sort of that aha of all the reasons as to why I'm maybe struggling with a little bit of depression, because this time of year, even though it's a wonderful time of year, it was this time of year 5 years ago when my ex decided he wanted a divorce. And of course, it's my grandmother's birthday. And then, but she's passed away like several years ago, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, something like that, 10 and a half years ago, I think. But anyway, it's been a while. So it's, just lots of little triggers and things. And, if I go back, 6 years around this time is probably when I was engaged. So, and then of course my birthday is coming up in another month, and I'm realizing that I'm getting a little bit older. And normally I don't care about my age or my birthday. And for some reason this year, it really bothers me. Probably because I am getting older, and I know that it means I'm getting closer to menopause and getting closer to not being able to have any biological children of my own, and that I'm still single and lonely. And I know that's not where my focus should be, but all of these emotions seem to come up this time of year. So usually I like watching Conference because it's that hope and renewal of hope and something to look forward to for the future. And this year, not so much, because all these other old things are getting in the way. So if I'm perfectly honest, several years ago when I was going through divorce, my ex decided, after having watched conference priesthood session, that he wanted a divorce. And a friend of mine said that there was some talks or something in that conference session that is why he chose to get divorced. And I don't think there's anything that you can see in general conference um, that says get divorced. And but I put off watching that session of conference this entire time, and I finally chose to watch it tonight because I figured I need to watch the stuff that I'm avoiding. I need to do the things that I've been avoiding because then I can face it, and then it's not so big, it's not so scary, it's not so hard. And I watched that session of conference, and it talked about family, it talked about strengthening marriages, it talked about calling on the power of the Lord and increasing prayer and scripture study. And to me, I watched that, and those were all the answers to how to fix a marriage, how to work through marriage. It talked about marriage being work, and you build it brick upon brick and line upon line, and it takes work, but it's worth it. And that's how you build strong marriages, is you work together and you counsel with each other. And I I watched this session of conference, and I thought those are all the answers on how to make the relationship work. And for whatever reason, my ex watched that and decided that it was too much work, and he didn't want to change, and he didn't want to do it, and he wanted out of the situation. So I don't know what his trauma or emotional issues or whatever it was that got to him, but I think it doesn't do me any good to speculate because I know I've been that person that feels like I'm not worthy or not good enough, or that it's overwhelming and I can't do all of those things. And it's just because of where I'm at in my life. And I guess whatever he was struggling with or dealing with, he didn't feel like he could share with me, and he didn't feel like he could trust the Lord to get him through it. So he decided to take the easy way out. He decided that divorce was better for everybody, or better for him, and he didn't care how it affected everybody else, myself included. So anyway, it's just I think it just in the process of getting over my ex and moving forward in my life, and the part of letting go and forgiving and just moving on, I had to watch this to be like, okay, what was in this that was, and there wasn't anything that stood out to me that said this is why my ex decided he didn't want to be married. And then it was just the revelation and realization that there were lots of other things leading up to that decision. And I wasn't included in that decision, which I think is the hardest part for me, because I grew up always thinking that I would have a say in my own marriage when I grew up, that it didn't have to end in divorce, that I could make it work, that it would be better than my childhood. And I had an aunt that would always tell me it takes two to tango. And, it's two people's fault. The reason my parents got divorced was they were both at fault somehow. And as an adult going through that situation, I did everything I knew how to do, and I was praying and I was trying to do better. I was trying to improve, and I could not get my husband to open up, my ex to open up. I couldn't get him to talk to me. I couldn't get him to want to be a part of a relationship. And so it takes two. I learned that it takes two to tango, meaning it takes two to make a relationship work. It only takes one to ruin a relationship. And I learned that a few years back. It took me a while, a few years after being divorced, or a couple of years after being divorced. And it still hurts. I wish that it didn't. I wish those things didn't just randomly come back up at like anniversaries or dates. And the funny thing is I don't consciously think, oh, this is what this is. It's just, it's after the day comes out, or I write the date in my journal, or some event like general conference happens, and all of a sudden I'm like, why am I freaking out? Why can't I do this right now? Why am I depressed or discouraged? And it's that subconscious mind of mine that keeps track of all of these things. It keeps track of all of what I thought my future goals were. And sometimes I think I'm more devastated that I didn't have control over my marriage than I am over not being married to my ex. Because the reality is I don't want to be married to the man that he's chosen to be. And I don't want to be around him with the choices he's choosing to make. So feel like it's kind of a good thing for me not to be with him, but it's just really hard for me to feel like I failed and to recognize that I didn't fail, I guess is how to put it, because I did feel like I failed. I did feel like I did something wrong. And I've always had a strong testimony in the church, and I always, I guess I was afraid of watching some session of conferences. There was something in there, and I was like, there's nothing in there. The church doesn't preach divorce. They teach you that it's each individual person's choices and to not be in a bad situation, but also to, be happy and to work together and do the best you can to make the relationship work. But there are extenuating circumstances, and there's not an answer one way or the other. But if you follow the counsel of the Lord, you'll always be led to the right answer. Um, so I know that's true, and I need little reminders of that. And sometimes I just, I am kind of prideful and stubborn, and I don't like facing pain and fear and in the unknown. And so funny thing is in all of that, I seem to avoid the things that make me feel better, because I know it means I have to face my old emotions and my old fears. And yet, watching that session of conference was actually very comforting to me and kind of healing, actually, and a nice reminder that families can be together forever, and that the ideal family does require work, but it's worth it, and you can always rely on the Lord to get you through. But also the reminder that I don't know what was going on with my ex, and I didn't have any say in his choice. And whatever it was that he was dealing with had nothing to do with what they said in general conference, because all I saw in those were messages of hope and encouragement and direction as to where to go if you're struggling in a relationship or a marriage. And he obviously didn't take it that way, and I have no control over that. And obviously I can't go back in time and fix that or change that, and I really don't want to. I mean, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't want to. I think it's the fantasy that I want to fix. I wanted the fantasy of the perfect marriage. I wanted the fantasy of, some guy that was going to love me forever, that we were going to have our own kids together. I wanted that fantasy, and I think I'm more devastated over losing that fantasy, that it didn't work out the way that I imagined it, than I am that the relationship itself didn't work out. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think sometimes I just build up too many dreams and ideas as to what my future is going to be, and I set those expectations, and then I get those resentments. I get devastated. I get depressed and discouraged because it didn't turn out the way that I planned. It doesn't mean it was wrong, and it doesn't mean that I made a mistake, and it doesn't mean that God doesn't love me. It just means that that's not the way my life is going to go. So I get to grieve the loss of my plans and what I wanted for the future. And then doing these videos and focusing on today reminds me that I don't know what my future is going to be. And although I can set goals of things that I would like to accomplish, like I would like to get my books published, things like that, maybe at some point eat a little bit healthier, lose some weight, get a different job, things like that. But those don't necessarily, I mean, they may help me towards moving forward in my future, giving me things to look forward to, but it's not going to be what my daily life is like. And yes, at some point, maybe it might be nice to meet in another relationship with someone that wants to be with me as much as I want to be with them. But I don't know if that will happen. And I think right now I'm feeling like that's something I'm losing or letting go of. And I think with my birthday coming up, that scares me. So I know those little silly things that enter my mind, that freak me out, that scare me, and then I avoid those feelings and emotions. And then when I avoid those, I end up avoiding doing everything else that would be healthy for me. And I wish I would stop doing that, because avoiding one thing in my life that's a little thing, but it feels huge to me, makes the other things that I do in my life, even the little things, just seem impossible too. Or maybe it's just because I start avoiding one, it's just so easy to avoid everything else. Because if I'm my method of avoidance is, watching Netflix or playing games on my phone. And if I'm sucked into something where I'm numbing my brain out, or I'm focused on something else so nothing else can get in, I can't. It helps me to avoid focusing on old emotions or dealing with whatever's going on presently in my life. But if I'm focused on what God wants, if I'm focused on what I'm doing for the day, if I'm not running away and avoiding, and I'm doing things or thinking, okay, what do I need to do today, then I'm open to those suggestions by the Holy Ghost that say, hey, watch some sessions of General Conference, or hey, put your Christmas stuff away. I haven't done that, by the way. Hey, do some dishes. Hey, look for some jobs. All of those ideas, hey, make your book cover for your book. All those random ideas that pop into my head, I'm very good at pushing those away, and I need to do better at listening to those and following through with those. So this pretty much took me all day to get myself to just watch the one session of conference, and I didn't even count how many times that thought popped into my head today or yesterday or in the past week, to be perfectly honest. But I'm grateful that I finally gave in to that prompting today, because it was uplifting, because it did bring me some peace, maybe some closure. Um, it did allow me to see the situation in a different light, a different perspective, and to just know that I can move forward from this, because I want the kind of family and husband and life that they talked about in that session of conference, and my ex does not meet that at all. And he watched that session of conference and decided that it was too much work for him, and he didn't want to be in a relationship after that. So I really don't want to be with a man that's going to look at all of that hope and spiritual guidance and just turn and run the other way. I deserve way better than that. I am better than that. I want better than that. So that is what I need to look forward to, instead of looking back and wishing I could figure out how to fix it or change it. And that is one of the hardest things for me, is always trying to figure out what I did wrong and how to fix it, how to make it better. And I wish I wouldn't do that, but I do. I think that's something I just grew up with, because I always felt like I was being punished, yelled at, ignored, neglected. And I just wanted to know, and I didn't know what the answers were. I just wanted to know what I was supposed to do or how I was supposed to change. And I always wondered, what's wrong with me? And it's not a new epiphany, but it's the realization that it's not what's wrong with me. It was what was wrong with the other people, and the other people that were hurting and couldn't see past their own pain, their own struggles, their own trials to even see me or what I needed. And I know I've been in places in my life, especially since my divorce, where I have been so caught up in my pain and so self-absorbed that I haven't been aware of other people, or even my children, if I'm perfectly honest. I haven't been aware of their struggles or their needs, or the needs of my friends or my family. I've just been caught up in my own. And I think in doing these videos, it's kind of helped me to do some healing and to be more aware of how God sees me, and more aware of other people and their struggles, and recognizing that I'm not alone in mine. But it's still easy for me to get caught up in my depression and caught up in myself and my struggles, like nothing else in the world matters, and they're just so big and overwhelming, and they're not. And they're even less overwhelming when they're shared with other people. And I know it's true when I share other people's burdens or help them out, that it makes their life lighter too. So it's just a process, and it's gonna take me a while, but I hope that I can do better and not be so caught up in my own whatever. But it's gonna, I have my good days and my bad days, and some days just get the better of me. And if I did better at listening, and maybe they wouldn't, but I think it's not just the listening, it's the actual doing and not avoiding. I'm very good at avoiding things, but I am grateful to have faced one of the things that I've been avoiding for several years now. So I can tick that off my list. I'm no longer avoiding that. So yay, one down. I don't know how many to go, But I also find it very interesting that in order to move forward with my day, that sometimes I have to face things from my past in order to function or process my day. So I don't get to just put everything aside and shove it away like it never existed, even though I'm focusing on today, because there's always triggers in today that bring up things from the past, and it's learning to separate that. It's learning to face the stuff from the past and know that that's past, and recognize how it affects today, and then make the choice. Am I going to let it continue to affect my today and my future days, or am I going to acknowledge it, face it, let it go, and move forward? So today I acknowledged something from my past, and I think I'm in the process of letting it go, and I'm grateful for that. It was a humbling experience. It was a good experience. It was worth it. It's also kind of annoying that I took this long to face it, but maybe I just had to get to a place where I was ready and willing to face it, because maybe I wouldn't have seen it as a message of hope 5 years ago. Maybe I would have been more hurt and confused if I'd seen that and then the results were the same. So maybe it's a blessing I watched it today instead of then. But I'm also grateful that it's all recorded and you can just watch it and you don't have to just go back and read it in a magazine like you did when I was growing up. So lots of things to be grateful for, and little tiny bit of progress, little baby steps, tortoise steps, whatever, towards being a little bit healthier emotionally and spiritually today, and feeling like I actually accomplished something instead of just laying around and wallowing in depression, self-pity, and sickness. um, Not that it gets rid of all of those things, but hey, at least I can find some. And I know there's not always some underlying reason as to why I get triggered or depressed or I'm just having a bad day, but um, I'm becoming aware of those things, and I think God's putting them into my mind because they are things that are holding me back and things that I need to face and deal with. And as I do that, I will feel better and be more open to doing more things because I'm no longer holding on to or avoiding things from the past. So it's my little process. That's kind of where I'm at today. Just processing things, moving forward, facing things, old things, so I can enjoy new things, enjoy present things, current things, however you want to put it. I don't know. Anyway, that's my day today. So if you find it helpful, you like these videos, find them entertaining, whatever it is, you can hit like, subscribe, share with someone else if you think they'll like it too. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude and maybe do some writing.